Last Sunday, a helicopter carrying Iran's president Ebrahim Raisi crashed in the northwest of the country, resulting in the death of all on board. Among the passengers were the foreign minister, the provincial governor, and the chief religious leader of the region. The media initially reported the incident as a forced landing, but official Iranian sources have confirmed it was an accident caused by adverse weather conditions. This has led many to speculate whether it was truly accidental or potentially planned. Some theories suggest it could have been a joint operation by the United States and Israel, utilizing a weather-manipulating instrument known as HARP. Of the 3 helicopters transporting the presidential delegation, only 2 landed without issues, while the one carrying the president did not. Global leaders have begun reacting to Ebrahim Raisi's death, including the Hamas group, which expressed gratitude for his support in their conflict. The Israeli government has stated that it had no involvement in the incident. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe it was a planned attack by Israel or the United States, or simply an accident due to weather conditions? Share your opinion in the comments. Interestingly, on April 13, 2024, Iran launched a significant military attack against Israel. That night, hundreds of drones and missiles from the Iranian army crossed into Israeli airspace, with most being intercepted by the Israeli defense system without prior warning. Nevertheless, it is clear that we are facing a substantial threat of war that could erupt at any moment. Many Bible scholars suggest that this might not be just any conflict, but rather the fulfillment of an Old Testament biblical prophecy regarding the war of Gog and Magog, also mentioned by the Apostle John in Revelation chapter 20. Therefore, in today's video, we will explain in a very simple way everything that is happening, and we will show why this time you and I need to be vigilant, as we might be facing a prophecy related to the return of Jesus. But before we begin, I ask that you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell, because every day I want to help you understand the Bible in an easy way and assist you in your walk with God. Alright, so let's get started. As Iranian missiles and drones flew towards Israel, a new wave of tension and uncertainty swept through the world regarding a potential new confrontation in the Middle East, this time involving 2 of the region's major military powers. The question on many people's minds is, why did Iran attack Israel? Firstly, it's important to remember that these 2 countries have been in conflict for many years, although they hadn't directly engaged in warfare until April 13th, when Iran responded to Israel for a supposed Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, just a few days ago. Days prior, in total, around 170 drones and over 120 missiles were fired in an aerial assault on Israel. However, 99 of them were intercepted by Israel's and its allies' air defense systems, resulting in no major damage or casualties. Nevertheless, tensions persist between the countries, and the decisions that Israel's war cabinet must make in the coming days could alter the course of humanity. And this is not an exaggeration. Brothers and sisters, members of this body, demand that Israel make Iran pay for what it has done, and are already calling for a firm decision from Israeli Prime Minister and leader Benjamin Netanyahu. You might be wondering now, but Pastor, what does this have to do with the war of Gog and Magog in the Bible? Well, brothers and sisters, first let's understand what this prophecy is about in chapters 38 and 39. Of the book of Ezekiel, the prophet had a vision where nations led by a man named Gog. The prophet had a vision where nations led by a man named Gog, who was the leader from the land of Magog, unite to attack Israel. In this vision, the prophet sees Gog being pulled with hooks in his jaw to lead this alliance of nations, which include Persia, which is modern day, Iran, Kush, and Put, which are Ethiopia and Libya, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah regions that are part of modern-day Turkey and areas bordering Russia. The prophecy also states that these nations will attack Israel because they perceive it as a weak and defenseless land that will be destroyed by the creation of the state of Israel, leading to the recognition of that land and its people worldwide as a nation. Since then, Israel has faced numerous attacks from neighboring countries, including Palestinian extremists who do not recognize its independence, but never in the history of humanity had Israel been directly attacked by Iran. And following Ezekiel's prophecy, we see that when Gog finally invades Israel, God expresses his fury and takes action. He pours out his fury upon that land, including earthquakes, panic among the enemy armies, diseases, sulfur rain, and judgment by the sword, showing that he is the Lord of the nation of Israel. And the prophecy doesn't stop there. God uses the prophet Ezekiel to describe the terrible end of Gog and his allies. The defeat will be so great that even the birds and wild animals will be called to devour the corpses, and the weapons left by the defeated armies will be used by Israel for 7 years. Furthermore, all the bodies of the dead enemies will be buried in Israel in a valley called the Valley of Travelers east of the Dead Sea to cleanse the land, and all of this will take 7 months to complete. Finally, the Lord will bring about a spiritual restoration in Israel, and all will know that He is their God. And yet doubt may still linger. What does a prophecy from 2,600 years ago have to do with the world today? It happens, brothers and sisters, that, as I said at the beginning, this is the first time that Iran, the ancient Persia, has directly attacked Israel. And this is so significant that if Israel truly retaliates against the attacks it has suffered, it is very likely that Iran's allied countries, such as Russia, will enter this war. And therein lies the danger because, according to some knowledgeable pastors, they assert that Magog would be Russia, and that it would lead this attack on Israel. In other words, brothers and sisters, if Ezekiel's prophecy were truly being fulfilled at this moment, then it would be the end of the world. In other words, brothers and sisters, if Ezekiel's prophecy were truly being fulfilled at this moment, the world would witness a war seldom seen in the history of humanity. And Jesus has already warned us that this would happen. In Matthew chapter 24, he said the following to his disciples when asked about the events that would mark his return and the end of times. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against nation. But notice that Jesus said it will not yet be the end. Israel will be attacked, but God will honor it, and more wars are likely to happen. In Matthew chapter 24, he said the following to his disciples when asked about the events that would mark his return and the end of times. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against nation. But notice that Jesus said it will not yet be the end. Israel will be attacked, but God will honor it. And more wars are likely to happen. What should you do in the face of all this? Surrender your life to Jesus, for we do not know what the future holds. It may be that the end times and the rapture do not occur in the next few years, but who can guarantee that we will be alive tomorrow morning? Speaking of the end times, Revelation chapter 20 makes a reference to Gog and Magog, but this prophecy from the Apostle John, which was given by God when he was caught up while on the island of Patmos, has nothing to do with Ezekiel's prophecy. John's prophecy speaks of a future time, 1,000 years after Jesus' return and the establishment of his kingdom here on earth. Let's see what the Bible says. When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog. And to gather them for battle in number, they are like the sand on the seashore. After the 7 years of the Great Tribulation, Jesus will return to earth, destroy the Antichrist and the false prophet, and bind Satan for 1,000 years. Then he will establish his kingdom here, and we as Christians will reign with him. However, after this period, Satan will be released and will deceive the nations called Gog and Magog, who will gather on the mountains and surround the holy city, which will likely be the New Jerusalem, where we will all live with Christ for a final attempt at attack. But the Lord will rain fire from heaven and defeat them once and for all, casting Satan into hell forever. Then the dead who did not serve Christ will be judged according to their deeds. And a question many Christians have is about this final battle. People often think it is the Battle of Armageddon, but it is not. In fact, Armageddon is described in Revelation chapter 16, and it says, "It is part of the seventh bowl of the seventh wrath of God poured out upon the earth." It is the final confrontation between the forces of God and the forces of the Antichrist, marking a decisive time before the return of Jesus. Gog and Magog will occur after his return. Let's read together what the Bible says. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. The seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne saying,